Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be doing the Sydney Swans vs Brisbane Lions game in the preseason and going through it from an AFL fantasy perspective. I guess a review of that game, probably going to be a quicker game review in comparison to the rest of them as well, these next three today, as I'm sort of short on time a little bit and I need to get these out for you guys, especially given that opening round is starting on Thursday and I have about 8, I think, videos including this one to record. So yeah, a lot of videos to record for you guys over the next couple of days, and I'm pretty time strapped at the moment. But anyway, before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So Errol Gulden, 133, yeah, he looks crazy, and with the Adams injury out for 3 to 4 weeks, Parker out for 3 to 4 weeks, pretty much confirms Sheldrick is going to play. I don't think, given the practice game with Sheldrick, that we're going to get to his score in this one, I don't think you can necessarily actually go there. If he had pulled out a 90 or something like that, then you could, but given that his points per minute, which was his redeeming factor last year, and going into this year, I don't think you can pick him, but he will be in the team. And Errol Gulden, he could. There are iterations, I think, with the Swans' best 22 or 23, where I have Errol in the midfield, and that allows a McInerney into the team, or it allows a Roberts into the team. But I personally think they actually will go with Fox and have Heaney as that next midfielder into a lot. It will be a lot of Heaney, Papley and stuff like guys like that having increased minutes. But I think they'd rather go with those guys rather than guys like Roberts at the moment. Because Roberts, he sort of can only really play on the wing or the half back line, and they don't really have injuries there. And he's not really too much of a winger, so that's why I don't think, even with his good game, that he will play at the moment. But yeah, Errol, there's almost a consideration to start him, to be honest with you, and I'll go through that on probably in between round 0 and round 1, as that'll be sort of when I go through that. And I think there is actual consideration to Errol starting. But yeah, 133 from him. He just looked great and had the non-disposal points. What's that? 21, 36, 57 non-disposal points. Absolutely huge. McCluggage, 131. I just can't see him really doing this regularly, so I'm not too worried about this, to be honest. James Jordan, 31 touches, 9 marks, 3 tackles. What's that? 27 plus 3 tackles, 39 non-disposal points. Huge. If he can get somewhere close to... We are happy with him getting an 80 plus. So if he has a score like this, a 119, the cash in is just going to flow, and he's going to be a 60%er if he goes 119 in the opening round. I don't expect that. I think he's more of an 85-90 guy, given his 25% on ball, which I expect to increase to probably 35%, given their midfield issues at the Swans. But the only thing I'll say about the Swans, and I'll say this again in round 0 and round 1, when we get into the team reveals, etc., is just be careful about selecting too many guys that go into the Swans midfield, as round 4 to round 8 could see Mills, Parker and Adams all come back into that midfield. So just be careful about who you select, given their job security could absolutely be chucked into the bin, or just their role change. Gulden could go back to a wing. James Jordan could go back to exclusively wing. Heaney could go back to his full forward and no on ball, and Papley could go back to his half forward and no on ball, and also Roberts might not be in the side, Angus Sheldrick might not be in the side. So there's all those sort of little things that could happen in the space of 4 weeks, and if you have too many of those guys, as long as also trying to upgrade in that time, you're pretty much screwed. So just be careful of that. Zorko, 97, he's not going to do that consistently, I don't think. Josh Dunkley, 96, only problem with him is that early buy, so you can just pick him up after the buy, to be honest with you, if you wanted to. Kitty Coleman, 91, he's around 0 watch on the same thing as some other guys, because if he gets a good score, you may just pick him, and then especially in fantasy, not so much Supercoach, I think, because does he have the extremely early buy? I know that he's in the early buy section of the early buys in those rounds 2 and 3, but I forget which one he has. I'm pretty sure he might be the early one. But anyway, yeah, 91, he's a watch. Camarena, 83, Harris Andrews, 78. Lohman, 77. It sounds like a wing roll. I need to double check with some people about that, but yeah, he's a round zero watch, because if you get a guy like him, you can maybe even fade the likes of a Windsor or something like that for a Lohman if Lohman does do that, and then you can almost trade into a Windsor or another. He can be your first downgrade, I guess. Neil, 76, he was in first gear. Rowbottom, 75, again, he just wanted to almost get through the game because he's a midfielder and they need on-ballers. McInerney, 74, he came alive late. He was on about 30 at halftime or something like that. He had, I think, two, he may have even been on 20 and had a 25 and a 27 in the second half, quarter-wise, to get to 74. Latham, 74, he took most of the rucks in the second half. I know the CBAs are a little bit shifted, but that's because there was like 2 goals scored in the last quarter or something. So there was only like 3 CBAs. You got 2 goals, 1 to 1 goal, 1. So there was 4 CBAs in the last quarter, comparative to the whole game. There was 24, I believe. So yeah, there was not that many CBAs in the last quarter. So Grundy's statistics were slightly off in that he attended 70% of the CBAs, but you can see if we get down to Grundy here that he was only on the ground for 60%. So it just shows when the CBAs happened. So yeah, Latham 71% or 71% time on ground for a 74. He shouldn't be in the round zero side, I don't think. But he did play well at that point, but he should just be sitting in the VFL in case Grundy gets injured, but hopefully that doesn't happen. Blakey, 74, and yeah, we need his run out of the back, so that's why I don't think Roberts will get selected, because Lloyd will come back in, Rampy will come back in, and yes, this whole AFL is about being able to run and distribute, but you do need to, one of the core principles is defending, so you do need defenders, and if you have Blakey, you lose a little bit of defensive accountability if you have Blakey, Lloyd, and Roberts, and Ollie Florent, and, well, Braden Campbell is a decent defender, but if you only have Cunningham and 2 or 1 tools, and then also Rampy, etc., you kind of lose that defensive grit that the Swans are known for, so I think Blakey sort of counteracts that Roberts movement. Heaney, 73, went a little bit on ball from what I remember, and yeah, I think that could start just as a covering action for the first couple of rounds of the year, given that he's a bigger body and can do a job in there, doesn't necessarily do a job, and I like him more forward, but when there's a need, and I think I'd rather have Roberts in there or Fox over Roberts, because Fox can go forward and can go back, so he does allow either Goulden or Papley or Heaney to go into the centre. So I think there's more flexibility with Fox, and it also keeps it also can help keep more of the structure the same. McInerney, 70, like most of the rucks, they were just trying to get through it. Hipwood, 68, that's what a key forward's going to do. Roberts, 65 on 79% time on ground. I just think he's a lot more affected when Lloyd comes back, as well as Ollie Florent had just the duddest of all dud games. You can't even see him here. He was on, where is he here? 29 on 65% time on ground. That's going to be a lot higher in the actual game. Wicks, 64, he's cemented his spot, I genuinely think. Sheldrick, 60, he was pretty good, 78% time on ground for a 60 though. We probably want to see a little bit higher, but round 0 he could pop an 80 or something like that, and then you start to pose the question, do I or do I not? But I think he's on the watch list. He's not a line through him, and he's not a tick at the moment. He's definitely on the watch list. Fletcher, 58, Starcevic, 56, and I don't think Sheldrick is any use in Supercoach just because of the way he's just at that awkward price in the midfield when you can get Martin, etc., and they'll be using those as mid prices. Whereas at 300k, you might as well just go a rookie there and just go 2 rookies and a primo rather than a couple of mid prices, etc. Starcevich, Berry, Wilmot, Lincoln McCarthy, none of those guys really interesting. Harry Cunningham, just this lockdown defender, but also contributed outside of that. Brody Grundy literally had 60% of the ruck contests in his time on the ground or something. So he's down on ruck contests, down on time on ground. I think I equated it to, I think it was it a 75 or a 90 or something like that, when he actually, if he spent the right time on ground and had the amount of ruck contests that he was supposed to have, that we suspect between 75 and 80%, so 90, it's fine. And Cherry didn't do anything to really notice. So I'm really happy with Brody Grundy, especially because he also had 4 free kicks against in the time as well. So I don't expect him to do that consistently. Lions 50, Campbell 50, showed actually really good promise there as well. Adams 50 and 50% time on ground. So when he comes back, he could be interesting. But yeah, he's out for the first 4 rounds. He won't feature until after, I think, the Swans bye, because he's not going to come back for West Coast. I don't think they'll give him a week, and honestly could give him a week in the twos, to be honest, or a half game in the twos. That week is West Coast to West Coast. Then they have the bye, and then he should be back for round 6. Corey Warner, 49. Leicester, 48. Tunstall, don't really like the look of Tunstall's chances for best 22 necessarily, but that's that. And he could get best 22, but I don't think he's got enough of a role, to be honest, to score. But it's the Brisbane Lions, it's not the Swans, so I don't know exactly. Payne, 45. Fox, 43 in a more forward defensive role. He obviously didn't do necessarily the best on Coleman, but there's that. Melican, 40, shows that he's ahead of Hamling. So there's that. Amadi, McCartan, Cameron, Florence. None of these guys really had a good game or really noticeable. And then Hayward obviously was... I don't know if he was actually concussed. He went off. I think it was more precautionary than actually concussed, because if he was concussed, then that's causing all chaos. But I don't think he was. Henry, Hamling, Archie, Gardner, and then Will Edwards came on at the end. But anyway, that is the quick recap of the Swans and the Brisbane Lions. Probably a quicker recap because we get also the round 0 advice for them. And yeah, it's basically, for me now, it's actually, does Gordon get enough score in the opening round to hold his price? Because I think it would need a 140, because he can go 140s against the teams that he's got. Can he do that, as he's got 4 games and then the bye? Can he go strong against those guys and basically average 135, so that across the first 4 weeks, him alongside his round 5 bye, and if you say Sharp gets a 70 or Clark gets a 70 and covers him, can those guys score enough to basically mean that Goulden's going to be a 120 or still a +5 or a +6 on his actual average? Because if that's the case, then you've got a +6 guy, but you've also had you've got a +6 guy even with his bye. So I think that is what I'm really weighing up with Goulden, is can he be a 130 guy and be a leader in the comp, but even discounted with his bye, still be worthwhile? So that is basically what I'm weighing up with Goulden, just because of the midfield being such a mess, that someone's going to score for the Swans, and it should be Goulden. And he could honestly go 30, 10, and 5 tackles a game for 5 games, and that would be, 50? That would most likely be a 130 or 140 a game. So yeah, there's that. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.